Stop. What you did just then is what neuroscientists would call functional blindness. And by the time this video finishes, you will have been blind for roughly 1 minute and 12 seconds. More on that later. You think your vision is continuous, high-quality stream of reality. You trust it. You think of a toaster, and yes, I do mean it, a toaster, being a solid object because you see it. But neuroscientists and philosophers have a different name for it. They call it controlled hallucination theory. This is proposed by thinkers like Sam Harris and neuroscientist Anil Seth that suggest we aren't seeing the world. We are fabricating it. And the scary part is, it's full of errors, gaps, and lies that your brain is practically making up in real time. Today, I want to prove to you that you are blind, and you just don't know it yet. René Descartes once asked a terrifying question. How do I know an evil demon isn't tricking my senses? He realized if your senses can lie to you once, they can lie to you always. And biologically, he was right. The human eye is a biological disaster. First, you have a hole in your vision because of an evolutionary artifact. The optic nerve punches through your retina to your brain. This creates a blind spot in every human eye. Let's test it. Close your left eye and look at the cross with your right eye. Move your head closer to the screen and suddenly the dot disappears. When the dot vanishes, do you see a black hole? No, you see white. Your brain didn't receive data for that spot, so it lied. It cloned the surrounding white texture to paste it over the hole. But the lies get bigger. Move your eyes from the left side of the screen to the right. Do it quickly. Do you see a blur? Do you see a camera pan? No, you didn't see either of those things. You saw a clean cut. This is called saccadic masking. Your eyes move in jerky snaps called cicadas. If you saw the unfiltered movement, you'd get motion sick. So every time you move your eyes, your brain cuts the video feed. For about 20 to 200 milliseconds, you are blind. But the brain does something even crazier. It takes the image after the eye lands and backdates it to fill in the gap. While I was playing around with that effect, I thought of this example, and it is a trippy one. Find a mirror in your house and look at one of your eyes. Then switch to the other and repeat it a couple of times. You'll notice that your eyes aren't moving as strangely as that sounds, and it feels like you're just switching your perspective from one eye to other. However, when you record yourself doing this exercise, you'll notice that your eyes move, meaning you're effectively blind each time you move your eyes. And in the bigger picture, some sources say you do up to 2 to 5 cicadas a second, with each interval lasting from 20 to 200 milliseconds, meaning you're functionally blind for a minimum of 37 minutes to 3 hours every single day during your waking hours, roughly 15.5 hours. Vision has its limitations, but what about objects themselves? Plato famously described allegory of the cave. He said, "We are prisoners tied up in a cave, watching shadows on a wall." We think the shadows are real, but they are just projections. Neuroscience proved Plato was right, in a literal sense. Your retina is two-dimensional. It receives a flat, chaotic soup of photons. There is just light and dark. The fact that you perceive objects as 3D is a mathematical phenomenon known as the inverse optics problem. Your brain isn't seeing objects, it's guessing them. Look at this. You see a white triangle, brighter than the background, but there are no lines. Your brain invents the lines because it expects a shape to be there. We don't see with our eyes. We see with our expectations. This leads us to our final and perhaps most disturbing psychological realization. If the brain is actively inventing a world that is good enough for survival, what are we missing? What is real reality? The philosopher Immanuel Kant was thinking about this in the 18th century, long before MRIs. Kant argued that we are fundamentally trapped by our own cognitive hardware. We can't see the thing in itself, what he called pneumonia, the objective reality independent of human perception. We can only see the human version of it, the sights, sounds, and the feelings that our brain organizes for us. It's like wearing permanent yellow-tinted glasses. You can't take them off to see the true colors of the world. You can only describe the world through the lens, and our brains is that lens. Arthur Schopenhauer took this idea and made it even darker. He argued that the entire physical world we see is nothing more than a representation. It is the world as will and representation. To Schopenhauer, we don't see reality. We only see a tailored mental image created to service our desires and fears. The object in your hand, the person you see across the room, they are not reality. They are just ideas generated by your will to survive and interact. This makes the toaster more than just a lie. It's a mental weapon your brain created for its own purposes. Now we jump to the modern era, where cognitive scientists like Donald D. Huffman, whose claims that seem to validate these philosophers. More specifically, Donald Huffman's paper, The Interface Theory of Perception. He uses evolutionary game theory to argue that evolution actively selects against seeing the truth. He claims that objects, colors, and space itself are just desktop items, a user interface designed purely for convenience, not for truth. But this is where scientists' debate gets started. Hoffman's model, while sophisticated, is disputed by mainstream cognitive scientists. The central critique is this: if perception has zero correlation with reality, the user interface were truly random, we would have been wiped out immediately. Critics argue that our perception must maintain structural correspondence with reality. The perception of a toaster must appear where the actual toaster is located, or our species will fail. Hoffman's theories might come with critique, but it forces us to confront these core ideas. Even if our vision is not a total lie, even if it's structurally correspondent, it is still a selective, edited, and manufactured stream. It is the ultimate miracle that our brain can lie to us about continuity, geometry, and color, and yet still create an interface accurate enough for us to survive, build cities, and argue about philosophy. That is the true miracle of vision. So what did we actually see today? The greatest philosophers warned us that our senses are unreliable guides. Modern neuroscience shows us why. Vision isn't designed for truth, but for survival. The miracle isn't that you see. The miracle is that our brain can take that chaos, the blind spot, the cicadas, and the inverse optics problem, and continuously generate reality stable enough for you to trust. So the next time you look at the sunset or across the room at someone you love, remember, you are living in a fiction that you direct. The ultimate philosophical challenge isn't figuring out what the world is, it's figuring out who the architect of your own reality is. Thank you for watching.